Hey everyone, so I decided I should probably share the instructions on making twiddle muffs, or fidget muffs, as some call them. It depends on where you live. Um, I learned from a British website, so twiddle muffs, but I think in the US people probably just call them fidget muffs. So I thought it'd be good to share how the specifics of how it's done. So if anyone else ever wanted to make them, whether for special needs kids or special needs adult, or for an elderly person with Alzheimer's or dementia, which is what their original purpose is, but they can help people with autism, they can help people with other special needs, they can help people with brain injuries, all sorts of different things. So, but yeah, that is the original goal with their creation, was for Alzheimer's and dementia, but it works for anyone with those kind of sensory issues, those kind of same mindsets. So I'm currently working on row number 23. To make twiddle muffs, you have to use thread. Well, it's best to use wool, obviously, but the yarn has to be an average or small size, not chunky, because when you use chunky, the directions are actually a lot different. So, and I don't know those, so that's not what we're working with here. You cast 60 stitches, and then you knit. The best way to do it is to knit one row, purl the next, and so on, in a pattern, so it's smoother, but I don't know how to purl, so I'm just knitting. And if you're an expert knitter, you can also just knit in other textures, which add to the fidgeting and sensory purpose of the fidget muff, twiddle muff. So you can do special little crochets, you can do all sorts of little techniques that make it more fun to touch, but I don't know those things, so I'm just knitting a basic twiddle muff. You stitch about 120 rows, so double the size of the cast. So obviously I have a long ways to go. And after you do that, you sew, whether by hand or machine, it's up to you, this end, the top end to the bottom end. And then you just sew all sorts of little materials. And by sew, I mean hand sew with a sewing needle, beads, fabric, ribbons, buttons, all sorts of little things that are fun to play with. Zippers even. You can install a little zipper just randomly on it. There's literally no rules. Trims, everything. You can even add a strap so it can be put around the neck so, it doesn't fall off so easily. I'm debating whether to do that. I don't know. Because sometimes, I know at least with special needs people, as a person with autism myself, that sometimes having something around your neck might actually feel more uncomfortable. So, but I don't know if it would be the same for someone with dementia and Alzheimer's. So I'm just thinking that one through. But at the same time, I know as they progress, they eventually lose most abilities, including walking and motor functions and stuff. It happened to my grandmother. So they might drop things more easily and then not be able to pick it up safely. You can even install things on the inside, so it's like a tunnel, and you can install something on the inside so that when their hands are in the muff, both hands, they can play with something inside of it, especially when it's winter and they don't want their hands outside of it. So there's literally no rules to what you install onto it. It just has to be about 60 stitch cast and 120 rows. And then you just sew the two ends. So it's pretty big, but, it's kind of the point. So you can put a million different things on it. So far mine's not turned out perfectly as I imagined. See, I don't know if this is how it should be. But since this is my first time knitting at all, I'm pretty okay with it. And also, I don't plan to sell these. I plan to donate them to local community, to probably Legacy first, because they have the more severe cases of Alzheimer's and dementia. And also, I happen to know that when people pass away, which eventually they all will, um, they usually give the clothing and stuff to other patients. So what I make would still be given back to another person who needs it. And people at the other place where I volunteer, they're not in such a severe case yet. So I'm not even sure if they would appreciate it or if I'd be insulting them. I know some people there who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia and they don't know it. And I don't know if they forget or if people are specifically trying not to tell them. So it's kind of like I don't want to be the one to out it because that would be really awkward and uncomfortable. But I think it's a really great, cause, and they're easy to make. Really, you just takes a lot of time and patience. But in the end, they're so very easy to make, and so it's a really great way to do something good for someone who, as if you've ever met someone with advanced Alzheimer's. I remember my grandmother, they're usually scared and confused and sad, and they don't know, they may not even remember, in my grandmother's case, she didn't remember her parents died. I mean, how do you tell an 80-something-year-old woman her mom and dad died a long time ago? You really don't want to say it. So we just say, she asked, why don't my mom and dad come see me? And we would just say, they want to, but they couldn't. They got held up, because you don't have to make them relive that all over again. They tend to be more, people with Alzheimer's and dementia tend to get angry. My grandmother was not one of those people, but most of the time they become very aggressive and angry and mean. And this is mostly because they're scared, they're panicked, they're confused, and it's frustrating the hell out of them. And they can't understand anything going on around them, why the people around them aren't familiar. It's like being lost in life itself. It's terrible, and you can't make sense of it. And these kind of things, fidgeting with something is kind of a great way for them to cope. Gives them something to do. My grandmother used to love to help people even before. So when she developed Alzheimer's, she was constantly trying to help the nurses fold people's clothes. She would even go into people's rooms and fold their clothes without permission. And most people didn't mind, but a few people did, because she was in Alzheimer's unit, so there were a lot of people around her that were pretty aggressive. And I remember eventually she started stealing spoons, collecting them in her room. I'm not sure what her issue with silverware was, but it might be something to think about when stitching things on here, that they like shiny objects. I would imagine that's the reason for collecting the spoons. Shimmery things, metals, all sorts of fun stuff. So yeah, that's about it. I just thought it'd be good to share the specifics in case anyone else ever wanted to do this and help someone, or has a parent or grandparent or something that has Alzheimer's or dementia, or a kid with autism, or all sorts of other issues that you want to help with. So that's it.